Dan Butchko, superstar over here for Play NYC. Play NYC is actually taking place in the month of August, and I'm excited. But I actually want to go back because I've known you on and off for a long time, based on the social media stuff. And as we mentioned before we started the recording, is you've been following some of the stuff that the show has done over the years. And I met you way back, maybe 07, 08. It seems.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It seems like it's been a long time ever since we last saw each other. So welcome to the show, and I definitely want to hear what's been going on. Take me back, 2016, I guess, prior to going into the first event, and then we can go from there.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a journey. Play NYC emerged from Playcrafting, and Playcrafting emerged from a meetup group. So we have sort of this situation where a lot of different organizations will get started and then try to build a community around the organization itself. For us, it's the flip. We started out as that meetup group, and we built an organization all around the community. Right. So really, developers, fans, streamers, all around games in New York form the core of what Playcrafting is at its heart. And since then, it's been sort of a roller coaster ride. We have gone to San Francisco, to Boston, but really our home and our heart is in New York.
Absolutely.
And so having run a bunch of these local expos at Microsoft in Times Square for a number of years now, we decided at the end of 2016 that, with those growing and us not ever having actually advertised them, it was an indicator to us that New York needs its own full-scale, all-games convention. New York Comic-Con is not enough because games are just a small slice of it.
Right.
And being sort of the biggest community of game developers in New York, we thought we should be the ones to sort of dive in, take the chance on it, see if it would resonate with the community, and fortunately, it did.
Very cool. So how does that actually come together? I know that creating events is very difficult, and there's a lot of things that we don't necessarily talk about as we're putting those events together. So what does that take to go from the Microsoft stuff? I guess, so give me a couple of stories from the Microsoft, the organizational stuff, before you decided to go the other way.
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge for us is, having started as a meetup group, everything started out like really just organic, and it was just a monthly event that was a demo night for months and months. That was the way that the meetup group existed for the first couple of years. And I think that for us, the challenge has been scaling it in a way that is not taxing our community financially. Because it is a huge jump to go from a local expo inside the Microsoft office in Times Square to a full-scale all-games convention where we rent out an entire building in the middle of Manhattan. And so I think for us it's been really sort of a testament to the strength of the community and really the passion in the community that they took the leap with us. And so taking that jump required a lot. On one hand, I started looking at venues for Play NYC way back in, it must have been middle of 2016 or early 2016. And the Javits Center was the first place I went. I thought, you're going to do a convention in New York, it's got to be at the Javits Center. That's where all the conventions are. And then did a full spec out of all the different venues in New York. Right. And really what I came to and what people on the Playcrafting team came to was the conclusion that we wanted to build something that was in the service of this community, and we wanted people that came to Play NYC to feel like they were in something that's entirely unique and something that's really atmospheric and does the local community justice, really. So having it in a space like the Javits Center, really, you walk into that space and it feels like you could be anywhere.
Right, it's huge.
Yeah, it's huge, and we've been to PAX a number of times, E3, GDC. When you have something in a space, especially to start out, that is just a convention space, it is conventional,
Absolutely.
And to really help do justice for the developers, primarily in this community, we wanted to do something in a place that was really cool and
Right.
different. So having it in a concert venue made a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
In the road to the first Play NYC had us go from the Javits Center to we've done a number of great things with the Intrepid and the folks over there. We were going to try doing it on the boat, which would be really cool.
Right. Like a cruise session type thing?
Yeah, well, the Intrepid is the like the old warship that's in the harbor.
Ah, got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it would be really cool to have it there. So we looked all over the place in Manhattan. We looked at hotels. We looked outside of Manhattan. But really, in the end, we wanted to have a really New York vibe to it. And so a concert venue in Manhattan made the most sense. So we launched it at Terminal 5 last year. Great space for our first year. But we basically sold out on the first day. And we wanted to have a new home for Play NYC this year that would allow us to grow out. So now we're in the Manhattan Center.
Very cool.
We're going to be there for the next couple of years. That's the Hammerstein Ballroom. There's other like smaller venues that are sort of attached to it. It's right in the middle of Manhattan, so it's super accessible for people coming in from other states and other countries even. I think that like finding the home was really sort of the start of it, and then making sure that I personally got on the phone with every individual developer in the community who wanted to be a part of it last year and this year to make sure that they understand exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, answer any immediate questions. We don't want to lose, the real community vibe that we have, and it's important to make sure that we're, doing justice for the developers in the community.
So what's the pressure like for you right now, even with your schedule, as it relates to some of the things that you just mentioned, as you're getting people on board, giving the calls, doing the conference calls? I'm sure you have calls lined up already for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's things that you probably know right now that you can't necessarily announce, which I respect. I want to dig and be like, come on, man, just give me something. I want to do that, but I'm not going to do that. Out of respect for the whole business side of things. So what's the pressure like for you right now, as far as it relates from the first event and now to the second event, because you had the experience now?
Yeah, coming out of last year, I thought, like, wow, we survived it. It was a lot of pressure in the first year to get it off the ground, and I was convinced that the second year was going to be way easier, and it's actually harder in a lot of respects because last year we had the benefit of it being the first one, and so it's exciting. People don't know what to expect. Obviously, like, you make mistakes. You do some things great, some things not so great. We wanted to collect as much information as possible so that the next year we could learn from anything and make it better and better as we move forward. But really, I think this year it's all about making sure that Play NYC is not just a one-off, but it's sustainable, and it's something that we can do year after year and after year. And so I think that's really where the biggest pressure comes from, and that's logistically, financially, just across the board, because for this to really be something that has legs and can grow and grow from 5,000 to 10,000, 20,000 and above, we have to kind of build the foundation now. It can't be like a bootstrapping start from scratch year after year. So I think that, like, right now, it being a month out from the event is right where I start feeling crazy.
Okay.
And I still have calls constantly with developers who want to become a part of it. I refuse to give those up because those developers are the core of the community. Many of them have been around since it was just a meetup group. So I want to make sure that I personally am talking to every person who wants to be there. And then I think, there's also a lot of people get excited about it being New York's own full-scale games convention. A lot of people have like crazy outside-the-box ideas, and I certainly do too. But a lot of the challenge is sort of like editing and making sure it's feasible and we can do it. And I think we're going to put together something that's really cool this year. I'm super excited about it, and the response from developers has been really strong. We have even more streamers on board than we did last year. For me, it's like for every one developer that you see at Play NYC, or one media outlet, or one even attendee, there's probably 5 that couldn't make it for whatever reason. And so at the end of the year, I'm already preparing myself for, all right, what are the things that we couldn't make happen this year that I like really want to make happen for next year. And as much as I want to go from like point A to point Z, you know, year 1, 5,000 people, terminal 5, to like year 2, 800,000 people, Javits Center. It's all about sort of this like incremental step forward. And as long as the experience for the developers, for attendees, fans, streamers is improving year on year, and it's getting a little bit bigger and a little bit cooler, then I think we're succeeding. And I think we will this year.
Okay, so this is a selfish question.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you decide what media outlet, what independent quote unquote contractor, media person attends your event? You know, how do you decide which game is going to be showcased at your event? Is there like a particular checklist that you see, you look for?
Yeah.
Or whether you look at the stuff on social media, the person, first, and then you make the decision. So how do you make that decision? As you mentioned, you threw the numbers, 5,000. I think you had over 20 plus panels or something like that as it relates to numbers based on some of the things I was looking at. So how do you, and I use this term loosely as an event organizer, which I'm sure you wear many hats. How do you make those decisions?
I think there's a couple of things that go into it. On one hand, the main rule around showing at Play NYC is that your booth is interactive. So it's called Play NYC. You should be able to play every single space that you're in. We like sort of converting a building into an entirely playable space. So even if a booth or a kiosk is taken by a non-developer or a non-publisher, I've been doing a lot of like matchmaking. So, okay, like you're gonna be here with something that's game related, but it's not a straight up game. Maybe there's this person in the community that perhaps like couldn't afford a spot this year. Maybe the two of you should sync up, and this way both of you can be there. Your booth is playable and interactive. There's somebody in the community that's getting like a cool spot there that wouldn't have been able to have it otherwise. So really that's like the baseline for the spots. And then on top of that, screening wise, we have a really strong code of conduct in place that we worked with a couple of different organizations on. The Brooklyn Gamery, who is behind the Game Devs of Color Expo, which is this weekend. You should definitely check it out. As well as some other folks, IGDA has taken a look at it. That really helps us ensure that we have a safe space at Play NYC, and we take pride in making sure that that code of conduct is followed. So after having put that together, we make sure that the games that are on site are appropriate for all ages. If they're not, then we don't want to be policing games by any means. What we like to do is to show a full spectrum of what games are nowadays. We want games that are for social impact. We like the idea of games like pressing a couple buttons as well. And then we like a ton of games that are just straight up fun. So as long as that's falling within our code of conduct, and the developers and the games themselves are not preventing us from enabling a really safe environment for folks of all ages and backgrounds to be there, then it's kind of like an all are welcome.
Very cool.
And same is true with the media outlets too. I'm of the thinking that there is no outlet too small. You never know. We see this in the games community with developers. You never know which indie developer is going to take off. You never know if they might join a AAA studio eventually. So whether they're a student or a small studio or a AAA studio, I'm talking to all of them on the phone, and the same is with the media outlets as well. So I've done a number of interviews, and we've had a number of articles and videos come out with different outlets of all different shapes and sizes. And I like this idea of sort of a rising tide lifts all boats, and if there's a place for all different kinds of outlets to be there, and influencers as well, then we want to make it happen. Obviously within reason. So there is like some curating around it, but we set a very low bar, and that's because we want everything we do to be the lowest bar possible for entry. We do that with our education in terms of pricing and accessibility. We want as many people playing games, making games, streaming games, and covering games as possible. And if we can make that message amplified here in New York, which is typically not really known for its game industry and like its games community, then we want to amplify all those voices.
Very cool. So August, right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
As we wrap up, so tell us what's going on in August for the individuals who are learning about the event for the first time, and then we begin to close out. Any final tidbits that you want to share that I didn't necessarily ask that you want to add, and please feel free to do that.
Sure.
And also, thank you so much for giving me the time.
Yeah, no, of course. Play NYC was designed from the ground up to be like a carnival. So you don't have to be someone who's watching the show. You don't have to be someone who's reading all the different articles online or playing like the latest indie game and like be in the know about every little thing around games like you or like me. We're like that for sure. Folks like that are more than welcome. You'll find a lot to get there. But if you're just a mom or a dad and you want to like take your kids to something fun, you'll find a lot to love at Play NYC. The whole purpose of it is to take this space and transform it into something completely interactive and to give something to the local community and people that come in from out of town that they can't experience anywhere else. Across VR, mobile, desktop, consoles of all kinds, tabletop games, card games, board games, physical games. There's a lot to love there, and you'll see some like indie darlings and some AAA studios, as well as folks making their first game, making their third game, students. It's a come one, come all.
Nice.
And there's a couple things that we do in addition to that to really transform the space. One is the Graffiti Games Initiative, which we are doing something really special with this year. And that is, there's local developers that are commissioned to create pieces specifically for Play NYC that are interactive. We had that last year. We're having that again this year. And then if you can't be there in person, some of the top streamers in the New York community are going to be producing and hosting our stream from the main stage as well. So nice. You can definitely check that out as well, but you really have to come and see it for yourself. We like to call it the most playable building in Manhattan, and we're going to deliver it on that this year. So definitely come, have a blast. If you can't be there, check it out online. We'd love to have you and see what New York has to offer and what these other developers and folks are coming in from out of town have to offer. It's going to be an incredible, incredible weekend.
Awesome. Dan, thanks so much for your time today, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.